Hey guys, this is Jeff Stanek with Figured Out Baseball. We've got a great Figured Out Baseball podcast for you today. In fact, this is a podcast that's in the Real Dirt podcast series where we dig down pretty far into one specific topic, get as deep as we can, and hopefully try to uncover all the nooks and crannies that you need to be able to get better in this particular area if it's something you're interested in. Today we've got Addison Rouse on the podcast. He has been on several podcasts with us before. He's got videos on the website that you need to check out. Some really, really good stuff on pitching, bunting, some outfield play. I would definitely recommend you checking out his videos. But Addison Rouse is the head coach at Salem University, a pretty successful Division II school in Salem, West Virginia. I'll give you a quick background on Coach Rouse before we jump into the actual podcast with him. As a player, he started his playing career at Ohio Valley University, a Division II school in Vienna, West Virginia. He finished his playing career at Brescia University, which is an NAIA school in Owensboro, Kentucky. He began his coaching career at Brescia as a volunteer, then moved on to Henderson State University, a Division II school in Arkansas. There he was a graduate assistant. He then became the recruiting coordinator at Brescia once again, the NAIA school in Kentucky. From there, he got his first head coaching job at Eastern Nazarene College, a Division III school in Massachusetts. And then in 2017, he was named the head coach at Salem University and has since been putting together a fine Division II program there, a program that was not used to doing a lot of winning until Coach Rouse showed up, and now they are definitely a very respected Division II team in the region. Coach Rouse, appreciate you being on the podcast today, and looking forward to getting into base stealing with you today.
Jeff, thanks for having me. As always, it's an honor to be here with you and support what you're doing and figure it out. And I'm looking forward to diving into a little base running, which is our MO up here.
Yeah, man. So you guys are known to be, for any school that plays you, base running is something that you guys are known to be very good at. You not only take extra bases, but you are very, very successful in stealing bases. And I'm just kind of curious to know why you wanted to jump on this podcast. Why is base stealing something, or base running and base stealing, which we're talking specifically base stealing in this podcast, but why is base stealing and base running such a subject that you like to cover so much and something you think is so important to a successful program?
Yeah, it's just something I'm passionate about, and I think and we have talked about it a little bit before, to me, it's an equalizer. I think it gives you an opportunity to, I don't want to use the word overachieve, but you can steal games, kind of no pun intended, running the base as well. I think that it puts maximum pressure on a defense. There's a lot of philosophy to it, but a lot of really good base running is effort and attitude and having a great mentality. And I think that, if we're, really good base running teams make it really uncomfortable for opponents to play you. It creates an identity for you. Like I said, it closes the gap in talent. I think it builds an advantage. And then my last kind of point is it forces people to prepare differently. And I think if you blend all four of those things, I think base running is an extremely vital part of a successful baseball program.
I could not agree more, and I know that as a coach, for me, the most uncomfortable teams to play, like, to be honest, man, even more so than the teams that just really rake. The teams that can hit the long ball and that can beat you up that way, like, those teams can be demoralizing. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, without a doubt. 100%.
But the most uncomfortable and almost embarrassing type of team to play is the team that just runs all over you. A team that is stealing bases and you can't stop them. A team that is taking extra bases nonstop. Balls in the dirt. Taking advantage of defensive mistakes to take an extra 90 feet, whatever it is. Those types of teams are the ones that are the most frustrating, to get beat up by. Again, the team that scores 15 runs and hits 5 homers, like, that team is no fun to play either. But the really good base running teams that can really steal a lot of bases, those ones are just, like you said, they force you to prepare differently. Like, you can't stop thinking about it during the game. Every time there's a guy on base, like, you can't stop thinking about what that guy's going to do, if he's going to steal a base. Like, it changes the way that your pitchers deliver pitches, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to steal your thunder here, but can you kind of tell me some advantages that you see again, we want to talk specifically base stealing, but just being a good base running team, stealing a lot of bases and taking extra bases when they're there. What advantage does that give your team, and what does it force the other team to do differently?
I think it advantageously. I mean, like I told you, I think, and I kind of hit on this a minute ago, it's an identity thing. I think with our guys, we take a great deal of pride in being able to run well. So, it's become an identity for us. And so we feel like, from a program standpoint, from a team standpoint, that we're gonna wreak havoc on you. We're gonna be super aggressive. We're gonna steal bases. We're gonna, and I've told you, and I don't know if it's the right time for it, but like I said, you're running 78 feet, and a number of things, which I know we'll hit on later, can go wrong. You're going to be safe, and so, from our standpoint, our guys it is they do. It's who we are. We feel like we can run on anybody. And, I think that it's, like I said, it's closing the gap in talent. We're creating an advantage. And like I always talk about with some of our big hitters, when we're really good running, stealing bases, it is going to force people to pitch us differently. So our hope is that we're so good running, stealing bases, that our big guys are going to get fastballs to hit because opponents are afraid to go soft or bounce pitches because we're going to steal bag or get a dirt ball read, as I like to say, grab 90, and we're going to be closer to scoring a run. So we're hoping that our guys are going to get pitches to hit because pitchers are afraid to attack us a certain way. And then on the flip side, we want to have a lineup that's stacked with some guys that can swing it, where our runners are going to get really good pitches to run on. So, from a mentality standpoint, it's ingrained from day one, and our guys have really bought into it. 1 through 9, that's in the lineup, whether you're a big guy or a burner guy, we're going to find a way to steal a base. And then I think from an opponent standpoint, I remember very vividly, Jeff, when I was playing, we played Lincoln Memorial every year when I was at Ohio Valley, really good program down in Tennessee, and they had this kid that, he led the country in stolen bases, I think, at the junior college level before he transferred. And I remember that week we had spent 15 to 20 minutes per day working on holds, picks, what to do if we pick them off, rundowns. Our catchers were throwing a little bit more that week than normal, and we had spent so much emphasis on it that we took so much away. We were deviating from our normal practice routine to get ready to stop this guy, and we still couldn't stop him at the end of the day. So I think that when we're really good at that and teams see that we're a really good base running team, my hope is that they deviate from their practice plan and spend X amount of time all week trying to get ready for the Tigers' base running attack.
And that's just... It does. It really just changes everything about the game. It changes the focus of the other team. Like, if you were the pitcher, right, and you got a guy on base, and like you said, it forced him to pitch differently because the guy's making a decision on the mound or the pitch caller's making a decision. All right, do we throw the breaking ball here knowing that if they're running, now they're probably going to be safe because we're throwing a breaking ball? If they're not running and we throw this ball in the dirt, they are going to be on second base because they're a very aggressive base running team taking second base. Or do I throw the fastball to try to throw them out and know that obviously I'm giving the hitter a fastball, which is the pitch every hitter wants to hit. So I think it changes everything about the game and changes how teams play you. And like you said, it really opens up the door for your offense because your guys are going to see fewer breaking balls, especially fewer breaking balls in the dirt. And if they don't, then you're going to be able to run because anytime you get, your hitters get behind in counts, 0-2, 1-2 counts, you can run a lot. Right, because you're expecting to break them ball in the dirt if they're not deviating from their plan. And if they do deviate
100%.
and they throw fastballs, then you get fastballs 0-2, and that's not a bad scenario either. Since you got to Salem, can you kind of tell everybody what sort of, so they know who they're hearing from? Obviously, you guys like to run, but can you kind of tell them what you guys have done base stealing-wise in all of Division II? I don't know if you have any numbers in front of you, but can you just kind of pat yourself on the back a little bit for this?
No, we were, over the last, I want to give you the accurate numbers. Over the last 4 years, we've stolen 100 plus bases at over 75% clip. where we really excelled was 2 years ago, our last full season of baseball, I guess, in 2019 season. We had a guy who stole 43 and was ranked in the nation. Let me give you, as we're talking, let me pull up our numbers exactly, because what we did the last full season was we stole 150 plus bases. We were third in the nation in stolen bases. The only two teams that were better, and one was a school in Benedict, I think, down in South Carolina, and the other one had played in a postseason, had played some more games than us. We were 155 of 182.
What percentage is that?
I'm doing the math right now. It's 85% clip, which I don't know if we'll ever repeat that, but that was pretty dang good. That's pretty impressive. And then the year before that, when we only played 36 games because of weather, we were 100 for 118, which is 84 per 80 rounds up to 85% again. So it's been pretty awesome. Even my first year, Jeff, where we were implementing everything. We were really new at it, and we were just now introducing it. And we only had 16 baseball players my first year, and you can imagine the stress that took on us. And we still almost stole. We still stole 50 bases that year with a brand new team, as we were implementing our at a 70% clip. So you can see when we started it right away, we initiated it immediately, and obviously we were a little bit out talented, but we still found a way to be aggressive. And then as we continue to bring in our guys, you see the trend there. We're 100 plus back-to-back years and at a really high clip.
85% is unbelievable. If you don't follow the statistics at higher levels, I mean, 85% is unbelievable. When I think about your catchers, I mean, you want your catchers to throw out 30% of your runners, right, or better, hopefully.
Oh, for sure.
And a catcher that can't throw out 20% of runners is going to have a real hard time playing at all. I mean, your team, not just an individual, but teams are stealing at 85%. That's an incredible clip. Now, Addison, is there a number that you believe, if you can't be higher than this number, stolen base percentage-wise, you're hurting yourself rather than helping yourself trying to run?
I believe the 70. I've always been told that 70% is kind of the standard. If you're below 70%, I guess, quote unquote, it's hurting your running and outs. You're hurting your percentages of scoring runs. And I agree with that standard. I think if we had a ball club that was below, that was in the 60% tile, that may change a little bit of my mindset because of the fact that we are running in outs. But if I'm being very honest with you, Jeff, and even our listeners out here, like, that's our identity. So I'm not gonna change that. Like, I've bought into that since I started. Since I was a GA in Arkansas, I bought into that, and that's been, that was 10 years ago. Right, so like that's what we're gonna do. I mean, we are going to do that, and we're gonna find a way to be successful at it. And even if our percentages, do drop at some point, or we're off to an early start where we're getting thrown out by playing some really good opponents down the south, we're gonna still find a way to adapt to that and make us better. And because that's like you said, that's our identity. That's who we are. So we're not going to change that very often. But I do think, from a general stance, you want to be above 70.
I think it's a good number to shoot for, and something that coaches should keep in mind. Now, coaches out there that don't run a lot, I'm assuming that a lot of them think we just don't have the personnel. We don't have the personnel to run that much. What's the personnel like on your team? Do you have a whole team of burners? When you're recruiting, like, are you only recruiting guys that run, a 6'8" or below, or do you have some pretty average runners on your team that still run just because it's part of your philosophy? And I'm asking this just to kind of give people that maybe would like to run more but don't believe they have the personnel. I just want to give them an insight as to, okay, this team is stealing 150 bags in 50-some games, 55, 60 games in a season. Like, you're still 3 bases a game on average. That's incredible. Do you have a whole team of burners, or do you believe this is possible to do with some good runners, but also guys that are pretty average runners?
Here's what I would tell you is we have our burners, and we do. I mean, I love recruiting speed. I love athletes. I love guys. And I guess the baseball metric, the sub-7 guys. You love to have, a roster full of those guys that are sub-7, athletic, can move, and also hit for power. Those are perfect, But we have, I would tell you this, and looking at our numbers, our top echelon, we probably have 3 or 4 guys in that lineup that are gonna carry, that are gonna steal 20 plus. We have. I'm looking at our lineup last year. A guy had 43, 22, 29, 16, and those were all guys that were, that were sub-7 runners. And then the other guys will kind of pick their spot, so to speak. So, your top echelon guys are the guys that are going to be the green light guys that you're going to be like, I want you to run every time that you're on first base. So at some point after an at bat or after 4 or 5 pitches, the first base coach is looking at him, why are you still here? Those are the guys that you want to really take the training wheels off, take the harness off. You're going. You go on first base, pick a pitch, and get the second. Almost like a Ricky Henderson kind of thing. And then the other guys, maybe because we do have some bigger guys in our lineup that are going to be above 7 runners from a 60 time, guys that are 7'2", 7'3", even a 7'4 runner. And those are the guys that we're going to have to run in good counts. We're going to have to pick our spot. We're going to have either a bad catcher back there or a guy that flow to the plate or a run on a breaking ball count. Maybe take a gamble with a big lead, so those guys are going to be more prone to pick spots and have to really study that, and we work on that. Obviously, I think I've told you before. We do in inter squads and stuff. We'll have our guys give them a free stolen base, so if they do steal and they get thrown out, they can go back to first base. That way, it's kind of a trial and error, and they get comfortable, trying to pick counts or expand their lead or maybe jump a pitcher and stuff like that. So. I definitely think we have a lot of really good resources to give not only the guys that are speed guys, but also some of those other guys in the lineup an opportunity to get maybe 10 plus bags a year.
Now I want to talk about how you practice this specifically, because it's not the easiest thing to practice, but let's get into that in a minute. First, Addison, I just want to ask you, being a team that has this type of identity, or any type of identity, whatever your team identity is, you've got to get your players to buy into it, obviously. How do you get your players, what's kind of your process to get players to buy into this ultra aggressive base stealing type of mentality, particularly, like, it's probably easy to talk the guy into the 6'5" runner that you guys run a lot, but the guy that's a 7'3" runner, how do you just convince everyone on the team and get them to have the identity, the mindset that this is who we are as Salem, and like this is something that other teams hate, and this is something that can be a huge advantage for us? How do you build that as the identity for the team and get all the guys to buy into it? Because obviously if they don't buy into it, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I think I would probably tell you that there's 3 areas that we work on with that. One is, from the get-go, we established that, right, as our identity. And so these guys, now I talked about it during the recruit visit. We talk about it the first meetings we have with them when we go over our philosophy. And what I would tell you, Jeff, is that when it comes to our base running like that, I tell them that is what I want them to do. That helps you stay in the lineup. So what I'm telling them is that I'm never going to punish you, take you out of a ball game. There's never going to be a repercussion for you running the bases aggressive. Like, I established that from day one. Like, you have freedom to go first to third or get a dirt ball read or obviously steal a base. And I am not going, I may question you and go, hey, that was a bad read, or hey, why did you run on that pitch? And we may talk about it. We may work on it, because I'm trying to help them become a better base runner and a better base stealer. But that day one, we established that that's the expectation, and so now they have the freedom to run and to be aggressive. They have the freedom to push it and to do that. Number 2 is we practice it. I mean, it's something that we work on all the time. We practice it. We do it there. The first 10 to 15 minutes of our practice, we're doing base running, we're doing dirt ball reads, or we're doing steel starts. So, when you do something every day, it's something that's going to get ingrained in them, and they're going to get really, really comfortable, doing it. And then number 3 is just how we define it. So I know that steelingbases.com is incredible. What Talarico's done is paved the way for our, base running on a grander scale. You look at the Wofford stuff. They spoke at the convention a couple years ago. Incredible. I had a buddy that coached some kids from Wofford in the summer, Jeff, and he talked about how they have a formula to do a math equation, and if the equation equals a certain number, they're stealing. They advanced it a lot, and that is big time. But we break it down almost from like, how to, what are those books, how to teach a dummy to, to build something. So we break it down really simple. Number 1 is we want, if the pitcher, Jeff, is slow to the plate and he's, big leg kick slow, I think that you're going to be safe stealing the second base. Number 2, if that pitcher throws a breaking ball or something soft, I think that you have a great opportunity to steal second base. Number 3, if that catcher doesn't handle the ball cleanly, I think that you're going to be safe at second base. Number 4, if that throw if the catcher can't transfer the ball and he has a hard time on the transfer, okay, you're going to be safe. That's 4 things. Number 5, if that catcher doesn't make a good throw to second base, you're safe. Number 6, if the fielder, the shortstop or second baseman doesn't receive the ball well, you're safe. Number 7, if they can't get a tag down, you're safe. Literally, one of 7 things goes wrong, you're safe. And all I'm asking you to do is run 78 or 77 feet. So I break it down so simplistic where they're like, oh, coach, that makes a lot of sense. One of these things goes wrong, I'm safe. And all I got to do is get a pretty good lead and run in a straight line 78 feet, and I can be safe. And these guys, they kind of get that. It kind of works for them, how simplistic and easy it is. And, I think when we break it down from a philosophy standpoint right away, when we practice it daily, and then I make it very simple for them as far as the formula, these guys buy into it, and they love the run.
You make it sound so easy. I've talked to those Wofford guys about what they do before, and, man, it's like, good thing you have smart kids there. I mean, it's great. It's great, but it's not simple. Like it's fairly complex. But what you guys do it makes a lot of sense, and especially depending who's listening to this, like a high school coach, that stuff is even more true because the odds of those 7 things happening correctly as you go down levels is, it obviously the percentages are less. When you talk about your leads, if there are 2 schools of thought, maybe there are more, but if there are 2 schools of thought where school number 1 is I want to get the biggest lead I possibly can and get the closest I can to second base, and I'm not going to be concerned with getting picked off, and thought number 2 is I want to stay a little closer to the bag, a little less of a lead, so that I'm not concerned about getting picked off, and so I can worry about getting the best jump that I possibly can, because I can think back to myself as a player, and I know that if I really extended my lead, getting picked off was on my mind, and I believe that hindered the kind of jump that I got. Do you ever talk about either of those schools of thought with your guys? Do you have a preference of one or the other?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. We do work on two leads. We have an aggressive lead and a safe lead. So we will implement those accordingly. What we like to do is we like to get, and again, this is why I love baseball, because we're so open. We like to get safe leads early in the game. That way, our opponent, they're gonna maybe they're gonna forget about us. We're in a safe lead. We're not worried about getting picked off. We want to read the pitcher. We also want to be deceptive. We want to appear like we're not being very aggressive. We obviously have a 7 to 9 foot lead. It's pretty. It's a step and a dive, or even just a step back where we're not diving back to the bag, so it's not very aggressive. And then as we move on and want to be aggressive in the game, then our lead will expand to that 11 to 13 foot range. So my hope is that they see 7 to 9 and go, they're not being very aggressive, right? And then all of a sudden, we expand our lead, and they don't take notice of it, and now we've gained 3 or 4 more feet, which essentially could be a difference in safe or out. And now we've been deceptive. We've gained ground, and hopefully our opponent isn't as worried about us.
I know we need to wrap this up pretty soon here, Coach, but I really want to talk about how you guys, how you actually practice this, because I think that one of the things a lot of coaches get hung up on is that it's tough to practice, because if you practice base stealing with a coach throwing BP, you don't have game-like leg lifts and hold, various hold times, etc., and maybe things can be rushed, and you don't get quite the game-like feel to it. But it's obviously you don't have that. You don't have guys throwing on the mound like live, that often. In college, you do more than high school, because you have in the fall season you've got inter squads, things like that. But even in the spring, you really don't. How and when do you practice base stealing? How do you try to make it as game-like as possible? What do you do during practice to get your guys reps? Because obviously, I'm assuming your guys get a lot of reps with this so they can get very comfortable with it.
Definitely. So, I told you earlier, we do the free steal during inter squads, where they get a free one, or they can, if they are out, they'll get to go back to the base. So, I mean, that kind of opens up a freedom for the aggressiveness and for them to run and to take chances often. We do it with our pitchers working on pitch and timing. So we kind of create a game there where there may be, some running involved, or burpees if you get picked off, just a number of different things where there's some consequences. And rather than just, hey, I'm going to be the one that's going to lift my leg and act like I'm picking or throwing to base, we actually have our pitchers that are doing live picks. And we have a guy that's live in the front at the normal spot in the bag, and then we put 2 guys behind him, so we're actually getting a little bit more quantity. We have, 2 guys behind getting live reads, and then the guy in front actually doing it live with the pitcher. They'll rotate, they'll go through that, and, if they get picked off, like I said, there'll be a burpee or a punishment or something on the line. That's kind of the main way we practice it, along with the inter squad. And then the other thing that we do that's kind of unique is a lot of time during our conditionings in the off season, I will do, leg lifting, and they'll be in a base running stance, and they'll get a chance to, and that's a little bit dummied down, where, like I said, where it is a coach lifting his leg, but they're still getting reads. And that's better than no read. It's better than being in a sprinter stance. So they're actually, when we're doing conditioning, every conditioning is in a base running stance. And a lot of times we have a coach lifting the leg and acting like he's going to the plate or picking them off. So, they get a chance to really work on it on a pretty consistent basis in all of our different training seasons.
Do you have any last thing here, Coach, before we do wrap it up? I know this is, how you practice it, and maybe a couple little nuances are things that I'm sure a lot of listeners are really interested in. Do you guys talk specifically about mechanics? Are there certain mechanics that you teach every base stealer that you think are sort of essential, or are you just talking to guys about the quality of their jump compared to, like if this is your best jump, you've got to get that best jump, and if you don't get the best jump, shut it down. Is there anything specific there that you guys work on or believe in when you're talking with guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple stuff, but we talk about, when they get their lead, we like a slight opening with the lead leg. That way your hips are already a little bit open. We talk about that a lot, giving yourself, not cutting yourself off. We actually take our lead in the front of the base, and then dive to the back corner, but we take our lead in the front, because if you look and you take your lead in the back corner, you're actually running to center field, and you have to change your direction actually on playing with the second base. So we like to take our lead in front of the back, so you're in a direct path to that second base. We talk about the first 2 steps being very crucial, with the left knee punch as your primary focus. That way you're getting a really strong first step with a left knee punch. And we'll practice that by doing quick steal starts, like 10-foot sprints. So we'll do a lot of short burst sprints. That way we're working on that left knee punch in our first 2 or 3 steps. We talked about exaggerating the first step, obviously, to gain as much ground as possible. Staying low, and then feeling that left, right, left. And then obviously, hopefully at that point, you're accelerated and on a pretty good path to second base. And then we talk about sliding, where you're keeping momentum. A lot of kids will slide and plant and not go very far. We want our slide to carry us not to the bag, but through the bag.
All really good points. And, mixing in things in conditioning that are going to help you win and help guys get better is so crucial. I've heard that from other coaches as well, just that if you use your conditioning as punishment, guys are going to look at it when they have to condition. They're not going to be, their focus isn't going to be on getting better. And I think doing what you guys seem to do, where you use conditioning as ways to get better and become better base stealers, better base runners, I think coaches that do that have a lot of success with that, and that helps the buy-in process. Is there anything we missed, Coach Rouse? Anything with base stealing that we did not touch on that you were hoping to touch on?
I don't think so. I think that you're right. I mean, I think it's something that we've created to be, fun and a part of who we are. And I think we covered it. I feel good about it. What do you think?
I feel good about it as well. And I fully buy into, I've coached teams that steal a lot. I've coached teams that don't run much at all. And I totally believe it's just a very different feel for the opponent when teams run. Like, no matter how good of an offense you are, I've coached offenses that, were statistically some of the best in the country, up there in the top 5 in runs scored, batting average, on base percentage, extra base hits. I've coached those type of teams, but I fully buy into that. If you're the team that runs a lot and is really aggressive on the bases, like, that scares teams more than anything else. And I fully buy into what you say, that it just creates a different mentality for the team and how they prepare. And if, any coach listening to this, I think it's encouraging. You don't need a whole team of burners to be able to implement something like this, and it can impact your team so much. And like you said, it can really steal a couple wins throughout the season.
And that can make a difference in, breaking records or getting to a regional or, all kinds of those. In our game, when you're playing, 50, 55 games, you have them in 2 or 3 is a big deal. It makes a difference.
Yeah, no doubt. And another reason to do it is just, and not to drag this on, but if you, on days when you face a really good arm, that really good offense, that powerful offense you might have on a team may not show up one day, and you might need to just be creative and score 2 or 3 runs and try to win a 2-1 or 3-2 ball game. And sometimes that, the big double or the big homer might not be there, and something else might be able to be there. And another thing that just I think about with all this is, I've coached college baseball in Iowa, where it's 40 degrees and the wind's blowing 25 miles an hour straight in, and it is really tough to hit on those days. Really tough to hit. But like base running and base stealing, they just don't go away, right? I mean, they're there every day.
No, you're right. I agree with you. I think when you're facing a good arm, it can be an equalizer. When you're in tough conditions, I mean, like you said, it's base stealing. It's there all the time. It's an opportunity all the time. When you're down, it can get you back in the game. When you're up, it can separate a gap. I totally agree with you.
Coach Addison Rouse, everybody. He's the head coach at Salem University in West Virginia. This is the Real Dirt podcast. We covered base stealing today. This has been a great one, Coach Rouse. I very much appreciate the time and all the input, all the insight into what you guys do. It's been really valuable.
As always, Jeff, thank you for having me on. I appreciate what you're doing for our community, and thanks for having me again.